This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get this going. Let's see how much energy I have.
I want to be very clear here. I'm not counting the Netflix stuff for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Runaways or any of that. Just MCU Disney+, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel. And my thoughts will be in a numbered list because that's how these videos go. And then I want to talk about what's going on with the other side. Look at a couple of videos about why She-Hulk is the worst thing ever and see what they hate so much. Besides, you know. But before I do that, I want to spend a couple of minutes with some criticism, so you don't think I'm just ignoring all of the show's flaws, because it's not perfect. Like number one, I do agree that in general, what the MCU has done with Bruce Banner Hulk does not always work. It will forever baffle me that Hulk's biggest single moment when it comes to developing his character happens off-screen. And I understand that it may not have been great for the flow of Infinity War, but that doesn't mean it can't be done at all. Cutting down on the moment with Black Widow could have worked. So I understand people who say of She-Hulk, it's dumb that we're getting this whole Hulk lesson from Bruce, and we never actually get to see Bruce go through the merging of his personalities. And the Hulk as a character feels like he's been largely forgotten about by the MCU. Something like that doesn't really bother me that much, but I get it. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with how they don't completely have the rights to the Hulk, so, you know, he hasn't gotten a solo movie. I'm sure if they did, they would have gotten a Hulk solo movie sometime in Phase 2. And maybe...
Yeah, it's worth pointing out. I did, well, it's like, I think they do a good job of giving him his own little arc between Infinity War and Endgame. But yeah, it would have been nice to have a little, like, interlude where we see him, like, actually change. Yeah, I think there's a good point there.
And maybe we get to explore the character more then. Second criticism, the CGI is not always great, I will say.
True. The CGI is spotty in parts of this series. The first episode I thought was fine. There's like episodes that are fine, and then there's scenes that just, ugh.
There are some times when I think it looks pretty terrific. Pretty much everything in episode 1 looked movie quality for me. And a lot of the shots that ended up in the trailers have solid effects. But there are plenty of other moments, like the ones at the law firm, where the CGI is pretty rough. I'm a little bit more sympathetic here because of all the recent articles about how Marvel is working all their VFX artists to death. It seems like an awful situation. And then you just...
Yes, and this is a situation that has to do with unionizing. These computer effects departments need to unionize.
Sort that out. But if you watch the show and think the CGI is distracting, I get it. Although, like I said, I think it's more often good than bad. And then the third criticism. This is a small nitpicky one, but it's really bugged me ever since I saw the first episode. What's the deal with She-Hulk getting drunk? Bruce treats it like a positive. It is, in fact, the first positive aspect of being a Hulk presented in the episode. However, Bruce says we can drink as much as we want and never get drunk. All buzz, no barf. Which, that's not a good thing, right? Sometimes the fun of drinking is getting drunk. Like in Cap 1, Steve
I don't like barfing from beer, so yeah, I would say that's a positive.
laments that his system metabolizes alcohol so fast that he cannot get drunk, so that's a drawback.
Well, I actually assumed part of his issue is that he wasn't getting buzzed. I assumed that his issue was no buzz.
But then if that's not enough, the next morning Jen wakes up with a Hulk-sized hangover. So you do get drunk enough to have a massive hangover? That's pretty bad.
Well, that's actually because she's in Jen form.
Like the worst of both worlds. Then, in a recent episode, Nikki lists as a positive that Jen cannot get a hangover. So which one is it? Not a showbreaker for sure, but it does not make very much sense, and I wish they'd never brought it up at all.
I think it does make sense. When she's She-Hulk, she can't get a hangover. When she's Jen, she can.
I feel like the right way this logic works out is that the benefit is that Jen, as a human, can get hammered, but as long as she hulks out for a moment or two before going to bed, her body can metabolize the alcohol quickly, and she does not have a hangover the next morning. Like, I'm definitely overthinking it, but while I was watching the show, I thought I was losing my mind. Anyway, those are my 3 negatives. But let's talk about the reasons that I think She-Hulk is the best Marvel show. I've got 3 of them too. 4 if you count. Number A, She-Hulk is funny. Now you're...
Okay, Mike, you're asking, how does Comicsgate make money? They have this group of toxic fans that they know how to sell to. They have this unifying narrative that they all work together with. They know how to talk to their base. They know their base will just fork over the money.
Your mileage on this one will vary, everyone finds different things funny, and I am very picky when it comes to comedy, but some parts of She-Hulk just really worked for me. Mainly it was the juxtaposition, putting a character or archetype into a situation that only exists in the MCU. Drunk bachelorette partygoer sees a portal to another dimension and goes, ew. Judge hears the Asgard is not a place, it's a people speech and strikes it down. Asgardian construction workers. I think it's just funny. Also, there's a lot of very
Oh, how do they deliver the comics and toys? I mean, it's usually shipments, and frequently they don't.
smart editing.
Ethan Van Sciver specifically likes to use a site called Indiegogo, which is very lenient on their terms. They will frequently let stuff get by as long as the creator just extends the period. Like, in Indiegogo, I believe they can just once a campaign's done, they can extend that period and just do that indefinitely.
Depart, and then Wong leaves. Wonderful. Quick, silly, and we move on. And if anyone wonders, why is Wong able to go to court next week? I don't know, the president pardoned him because he's the Sorcerer Supreme, and he basically has diplomatic immunity. Also, he's Wong. We all love Wong. Also, maybe he made them all forget with this spell. But okay, I'm not counting this as like a universal positive because I don't think highlighting it makes much of a point. Either you think it's funny, or you did not. But point one, She-Hulk is the first Marvel show that seems to know how to be a show. There's something to be said for effectively utilizing the medium in which you exist. And a common complaint among the Marvel shows is that they feel like a 3-hour movie cut up into 6 pieces and thrown on Disney+. And I think for quite a few of them, this is a fair criticism. Frequently, the episodes don't feel like their own concise story. While the episodes can be separated by certain storytelling functions or a change in location or something like that, it still feels like Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Hawkeye or Miss Marvel could be better served by cutting out a bunch of the fluff and editing the entire thing into a 2-hour-long movie. Really, the only ones that did this right were What If, which I'm not a huge fan of, WandaVision, which I love, and Loki, which is also very good. So 2 of the best shows in the MCU have done this right, and I think She-Hulk might be the best at it. Specifically because, unlike Loki or WandaVision, She-Hulk is very explicitly a sitcom. And part of the charm of a sitcom is that while there are big season-long arcs, like Diane warming up to Sam or Mac getting fat, the episodes themselves are largely disconnected and can be watched out of order without breaking the entire thing. And once everything was in motion, starting with episodes 3 and 4, I think we've really managed to hit that balance. It can be pretty effectively highlighted by focusing on the legal aspect of the series. Every episode is another case, sometimes 2 in 1 episode. Every case presents a new challenge, introduces a few new characters, and after 22 minutes, everything is wrapped up nice and neat. I think I could show someone episode 1 and then skip to episode 4 and they'd mostly get it. And I know some people don't like this, the disconnection at the heart of the show. But for
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to see when he calls out people, so... This is not a bad video at all, though. Let's see, there's a little spike here.
Love that we are able to run into characters like this without explanation. It just makes the world feel so much bigger. And if you are upset that Mr. Immortal is now an older philanderer and not the character from the Great Lakes Avengers, he does apparently have a son, so that character can be Mr. Immortal or something. Third thing I like, Jen is an interesting, likable character. Thanks for unpausing reaction, guys. I have heard lots of discourse that Jen is not an interesting character because she has no flaws. She never does anything wrong and she dismisses Bruce, her kind older cousin, which I think is a wild misreading of the entire series. Jen's biggest flaw is that she's just sort of arrogant, like this guy, or this guy, or this guy, or this guy. Jen believes she's going to be better at being a Hulk than she actually is and dismisses people offering her help, until she doesn't. We haven't gotten there yet, but I do have a feeling when Jen meets the other lawyer superhero, he's going to have something to say about the whole work-life balance thing. I also like that Jen...
Well, he called that correctly.
feels like an adult. Maybe it's just because I am also in my 30s, but I can really relate to the idea of having to go on bad dates or attend a chaotic wedding. That's why this meant to hate along with She-Hulk. It's not everybody, just a small group. And the jerks that cause Jen the most trouble happen to be largely men. But you don't need to take that as an attack on you because you're not a jerk. Or you don't have to be. But all of the men in the show exist, some version of them. They're obviously heightened for comedy and superhero purposes, but they're out there. And they are in the minority. But if we all agree that they exist, and they bother lonely women at bars, the show should talk about that, and we should all enjoy watching She-Hulk scare them together. And I wasn't gonna call anybody out, but I kinda need to for this. There's a channel called The Critical Drinker. Don't know much about him beyond what I can glean from his She-Hulk videos, but man, now I'm not gonna play the video. I'm gonna read it to you because I don't want him to be able to give me a copyright strike and get paid. I'm gonna do the best I can to capture the spirit of how he said it so it doesn't seem like I'm misrepresenting the video. You're welcome to go watch it yourself. Only for her to run into a group of evil men outside. I mean, I assume they're evil because that's clearly what the writer wants us to think. The problem is, they don't really do anything all that bad. I mean, they show some mild interest in Jen, who's clearly not that interested, but when they persist, she hulks up and almost kills all of them. So we all know what these guys are doing is not being a bit too forward. They're harassing her. She's scared that they're gonna be violent. And I mean, they're surrounding her in a parking lot, so that's bad. And we know that. You know that, you wouldn't do that, I wouldn't do that, practically none of us would. So those are the men. The ones that we are meant to hate along with She-Hulk. It's not everybody, just a small group of bullies. The problem is, some guys with big platforms who think what the guys in this clip are doing is not that bad, feel like the show is calling out all men because it's calling out them, and we shouldn't listen to them. They call people betas. They clearly don't deserve to be taken seriously. In Philadelphia, we have a word for people like them. Jabronis. Like in their video analyzing why the trailer makes She-Hulk look bad, this jabroni went out of his way twice to tell you how Jen was ungrateful for the powers she volunteered for. And if you've read the comics or have even the vaguest passing idea of She-Hulk's backstory, you know how wild of an assumption that is. And he uses that to justify Jen being whiny. Why is she whining about these powers she asked for, I assume for no reason? But she didn't, of course, that has never been Jen's origin. But this guy doesn't know that, otherwise this would be an insane conclusion to jump to. But he is using it to judge the show, and specifically Jen's attitude problem. Complaining about something bad that happens to you, that's normal. But complaining about something you signed up for, that's whiny. So she's probably doing that second thing because Jen's a bad character, even though the show hasn't come out yet. And in their next video, called She-Hulk, it's a comedy, they look back at the show's first few episodes to determine whether the show's comedy works for them. Oh, no? They rush out a video analyzing the one scene that has been released at the time. Can't see how that could backfire. So he goes over the only scene that has been released thus far, Jen's conversation with Bruce in the car. And this jabroni, looking to find something to hate about Jen and the writers of the show, takes issue with Jen's description of Steve's sex life. And I kid you not, calls Jen and the writers out for forgetting that Steve was on the USO tour for a while and probably had sex there. So this guy rushes to come up with a reason why the show is not good and jumps the gun using the first clip he can find, and that's what he says. And if you've watched the show, you know why calling the show out for this is hilarious. But what's he supposed to do? Wait until there's more than one scene? We need to prove that the show is bad immediately. Even their bad ideas about what woke means don't really hold up to any scrutiny. They say that Marvel has rules now, like that women can't lose a fight to a man. Solid rule. As long as you don't count Wanda, her, the Ancient One, Killmonger's girlfriend, this Dora Milaje, these Dora Milaje, these two, Gamora, Nebula, Gamora again, Nebula again, these two, Wanda again, Ghost, Ghost again, her again, her again, her again, and my personal favorite, her. And to be fair, those are all Phase 3. There probably aren't any in Phase 4. You know, besides Monica, the TVA agent, Makari again, Sprite, Kate a bunch, May, Wanda again, Love and Thunder spoilers, Sif, and Valkyrie. Okay, well that's not important, because they have another rule. Women can't be wrong. You know, except for when Wanda enslaves a whole town. Agatha's the bad guy. Carly kills a bunch of people for no reason. She's a bad guy. She's a bad guy. Sprite joins the bad guys. Kate gets caught a lot. Kate's mom is a bad guy. Najuma's the bad guy. The damage control lady is a bad guy. His mom is abusive. She kills everybody. Titania's a bad guy. And the most wrong thing, Kamala makes her dad sad. So accepting their premise, their own rules, that they wrote, Marvel's not that woke. These jabronis get tons of facts about the show wrong, but they're not dumb. So what's going on here? They want this show to be bad because it is woke, and they want to be right. 2 of their She-Hulk videos contain some version of this.
They also do it for money. They like the money.
Sentence. Well, I thought this show would be bad and woke, and I was absolutely right. They want you to think that woke equals bad. And It just doesn't. There is good progressive media and bad progressive media. And I understand how this can be difficult to parse as a viewer. From what I've seen, not all of their opinions are weird. This guy liked RRR, a notoriously not political movie, but cool. And he'll do that suggesting changes thing that I used to do, and sometimes his suggestions are fine. Not, you know, groundbreaking, but fine. So you start watching these channels and you go, I like what they're saying. They're making sense. But then they come out talking about how the show is too woke. Why does this show need to have Jen, a woman, save Bruce, a man? It's just woke propaganda and not, oh, I don't know, the #1 rule of character development, so much film 101 that one of the books is named after it. Just have a character save someone or something the audience likes, then we like them. But nah, it's probably just woke propaganda, right? That's why she does it. And you like this guy, the jabroni. And he's been right about other stuff before, so you feel like they must be right about this too. And even if you like the show and you have no problem with wokeness, it's fun to go along with it. In conclusion, why did I make this video? Well, 3 reasons. 1, I really genuinely enjoy this show and want to use my platform to talk about why. I have always been a humongous fan of the She-Hulk comics, and the Dan Slott 04 run is easily a top 3 favorite comics run of all time for me. 2, there are so many negative videos out there, and I think if someone who's not sold one way or the other goes on YouTube to see what people are saying about the show, I want them to at least see a positive take, because regardless of what these guys think, the show is popular. The numbers for it are pretty good. About as many people are watching it as watched Moon Knight, according to Nielsen, and they're not all hate watching. But the 3rd reason I made this video, because I do think there are going to be plenty of other people making similar points to mine, but I imagine many of them will be women. And I think there's a chance people won't watch those videos, or might not listen to them. Of course they like this show. The YouTuber told me the show is for women who hate men, which is what they must be. But I'm a guy. I like this show, and I want to tell other guys listening that it is okay to like it, and you do not need to listen to these jabronis when they invent reason after reason why it's a bad show, even though most of those things don't actually happen. If you don't agree with everything I've said, that's fine. But don't listen to these guys about how everything is too woke. The MCU. It's embarrassing. That's not why some of these shows and movies aren't as good as the old ones. Probably mostly because they're making too many of them, and also COVID screwed things up. If you don't like She-Hulk, don't like it. That's fine. But you deserve better. People who will critique a show based on what actually happens in that show, and not some version that exists in their head to justify their weird beliefs. And you deserve better than people who think that 3 guys chasing a woman through a parking lot isn't that bad. Before we go, I do have one other Hulk nitpick. What's with all the stubble? Why does the Hulk have stubble now? Does he need to shave? Does he shave every day?
Popular.
Or is all of his hair just like that way forever? Because if he shaves, he could use an AL-13.
Oh, you're going into that. Okay. I liked his little bit on Critical Drinker. That was pretty awesome. So I've actually been disconnected from the comments, so I don't know what you guys have said. So let me scroll through. Oh, it doesn't look like I've missed that much. The cheapest comic in Indiegogo is $50. That's insane. Mike, Alex, I'm sick of always seeing these reviewers in here. Not that I don't like them. I watch them a lot, but OC's reaction is, oh, I agree. So unless any of them call out Critical Drinker, just don't ask for them. Alex has been here for a while. He's allowed to ask for stuff. Are you excited for Leader returning in the new Captain? Yes. Yes, I'm interested to see where that goes. Yeah, okay. So I am happy that Nando here called out Critical Drinker. I wish he'd called out more. He probably didn't have time. I also have to wonder if maybe he was watching Critical Drinker in my videos, because it was in one of those videos where he left the comment. So, let me go ahead and tell him. Alright, and in case you're wondering, I was just leaving him a comment. Good job calling out Critical Drinker in this video. Him and people like him are cultivating the fandom menace and making the YouTube space very toxic for fans who just want to talk about his stuff. More people need to call them out. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That was awesome.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.